eBay friends. You have landed on episode 114 of eBay the Right Way. I'm Suzanne A. Wells, your hostess, and today's date is May 24th, 2023. My guest is Cassie in Illinois. No announcements this week, so we will get straight into the conversation with Cassie.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to eBay the Right Way. And today I have Cassie from the Facebook group. Now, do you go by Cassie B or just Cassie?
You can just call me Cassie. B is not my real last name, if you had to figure that out.
So, yeah, people have different names on Facebook for privacy and all that. So,
yeah,
that's why I never use last names, just in case you might not want that in the future.
Yeah.
And tell everybody where you're located.
I live in Lockport, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. So I'm about like a 40-minute drive, 1-hour train ride.
Okay. And is that where you're from?
I grew up like 10 minutes away. So in another suburb called Orland Park. But
so I
moved here in high school.
Native to Illinois.
Yes. I've never lived anywhere else. I know some of your guests and you have lived like all over the country.
Well, I haven't. I've lived in different places in the South. Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, now South Carolina. They're kind of all the same. They should probably all just be one state.
Yeah. You're kind of hitting up those Southeast states.
Yeah. So yeah, just move around a little bit, but you're young, so that could happen for you if you ever wanted to. And tell the listeners what year you were born.
I was born in 1989.
Okay, so you're kind of the younger group, which I love to see because on my stats for different social media stuff, it shows the age group of your audience, and it's like 75% between the ages of 45 and 65. So I like to see that some of the younger people have found me and stuck with me. So anyway, let's talk about what got you to eBay. When did you start and what was the event that pushed you into selling on eBay?
I was always kind of aware of eBay growing up. I was too young to do it when you started. Mm-hmm. I do remember when I was a little kid that I wanted to sell a toy dinosaur on eBay. And I told my mom I was going to sell it on eBay, but she wouldn't let me. So, but I got started probably 6 months after my 18th birthday. And my 15th high school reunion is coming up. So 15 years ago about.
Oh, wow. Hey, my 40th is coming up.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm like, I can't even believe that. How am I that old?
Yeah, it goes by fast.
Mm-hmm, it really does.
But I started because of my interest and degree in theater. I started selling extra playbills I had for when I would go to live performances. And they didn't get like a ton of money. It was like maybe, depending on the show and the production, it would be like $8 to $15, but I would sell those. And then I started selling like things I had around my house. And I did that for like 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, wait a minute, people are going out to find stuff to put on eBay. Yeah, and so I started doing that. Yeah, on purpose. And I started doing that, and I started going to thrift stores. I didn't buy like the best things. Like I did one trip where I bought all those clamshell VHSs. Uh-huh. And then I came home and I realized, oh, wait, they're kind of worthless.
Yeah, most of them are.
Yeah, unless they're like rare editions that are sealed.
Right. We'll go ahead and say that the Disney videos are not worth anything. All that hype on the internet about the, what are they called? The black diamond.
Black diamond. Yeah.
That's just one of those things that new people look up and they'll be like, oh, this sells for $1,000. And it's like, no, they're not worth that. It used to be like a money laundering thing where
that's what I've heard too, is that it's people laundering money through eBay, and that's where you get those like $1,000 comps for used VHSs.
So for the listeners, the way that works is you're in cahoots with your criminal buddies and you put something on eBay at a very high price and they buy it and the money goes through eBay, but it's not really about the item that's being sold. It's about something else illegal on the side. So,
moving money from a place it shouldn't be to another place.
Right. So it goes through a legitimate source. And that's also happens with the Beanie Babies that sell for so much money.
Yeah, that too.
Those are two items that I've identified over time that really have no value. Generally speaking, yes, there are some Beanie Babies that are valuable, but generally speaking, the Black Diamond VHS and the Beanie Babies, there's something crooked going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can sell lots of Beanie Babies, which I did because I cleaned out my, I had a tub full of them and I cleaned them out and I sold like, I don't know, it was like 30 of them for $25. Because people like them to give out as party favors, or sometimes they give them out in things for like children's hospitals.
Yeah, or the like the ambulance drivers and law enforcement and stuff like that. They keep them on hand to give to children in stressful and terrifying situations so they can have something to hold on to. But yeah, a lot of people end up donating them to children's hospitals or fire departments or things like that. But again, there are a handful of Beanie Babies that are worth something, like it's a misprint on the tag, or there were only a few made or something like that. But anything mass produced like that is really not going to be worth much.
Yeah, exactly. I remember on one of your videos, someone sold like it was like a first edition bear.
Okay.
With the tag, and I think they sold it for like $60, but that was just like a very rare one, and they aren't all going to sell for $60.
Right. So, and I hate that the whole money laundering fraud thing is going on because it's very deceiving to new people. You know, they'll look up something and be like, oh my gosh, it's worth $500. And unfortunately, it's not. It's disappointing.
Yes, exactly. But I just fell into the trap with the clamshell VHSs, and I did sell them, but I sold them for like $5 and stuff. But I then started learning how to look up comps, which I wasn't doing before.
Okay.
And then I found some more high value items. And what really happened was I was on YouTube one day and I looked up, I forget what it was I looked up. I looked up how to do something on eBay. And then it started suggesting all these channels that were reselling channels. And that's how I ended up finding you, is because I started subscribing to all these reselling channels.
Oh, good.
And you popped up in the algorithm. So I found your videos through that.
Well, and that's the rabbit hole of YouTube, because like you'll go on there looking for a cooking channel or, you know, how to stretch your back or whatever it is. I'm on there all the time looking up how to do stuff. And then it suggests other things. And then you get involved in those. And it's like, wait, where did the last 3 hours go?
Yeah, exactly. And I started watching that content regularly and getting ideas of, well, what is vintage and how to ship, because you're gonna cringe at this, but my grandma worked at a law office at the time, which had a postage machine. So I was sending my eBay packages through her office.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never really did the shipping thing without her help.
Okay.
And then they like started cracking down on using the postage machine for personal business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I was like looking up how to print your own labels and have the buyer pay for shipping and building it into your price if you need to.
Yeah. And shipping is the hardest for everybody to learn. For some reason, it seems very overwhelming, but eBay really has made it easy with the workflow. Back in the day, you had to plug all that in, ship your stuff through PayPal and then go back to eBay and mark it shipped, and they didn't have tracking numbers. And of course, you didn't get the discount on the postage like you do now. So it's really evolved over the years to a very user-friendly system. And
Yeah.
I also like that I think your sold items stay in that folder for 90 days. So if there's
Yeah.
a problem, you can look up the transaction and the tracking number, and that's really helpful for sellers.
Yeah, that's saved me a few times with people claiming that they didn't get items that they said they were delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
eBay sided with me the 2 times that happened.
Well, I mean, what else can you do if it shows delivered? I mean, there probably are situations where it was delivered and then somebody in the household put it somewhere and the buyer doesn't know where it is, or maybe it was delivered to the neighbor. That happens to me all the time. I get my neighbor's mail and, it's sitting on the living room table, like until they get a chance to give it to you. And there probably are situations where honestly, the person's like, I don't have it, but what else can you do but look at the tracking number and it shows delivered? So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's also possible that there are porch pirates.
oh yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
So, but eBay says if you legitimately don't have your package, you need to file a police report.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's who is going to be responsible for following up if someone stole something from your porch.
Right. And usually, well, in my experience, when somebody says they don't have it, it surfaces within a couple of days. Like it's somewhere. And yes, porch pirates are a thing, but I think most of the time it's just in the wrong place and the person doesn't know where it is.
Yeah. Or it was delivered to the neighbor and the neighbor didn't bring it to them
like
yet.
They haven't had a chance to bring it over. So for the listeners, don't go into defensive mode when your buyer says, I don't have it, because just put yourself in their situation. What if you ordered something and it showed delivered, but you don't have it? You got to look around, ask your neighbors, ask all the people in your household. It may be somewhere that you're just not aware of. And, just don't go into defensive mode with buyers and assume that, they're trying to rip you off and all of that, because in the few instances where the package wasn't found, eBay refunded the buyer if they can look at their account and see if they habitually do this. And after so many times, it's like, okay, yeah, they're pulling a scam. But if it's their first time reporting that they don't have it, eBay will refund them out of eBay's money, not your money, not the seller's money. Like as a goodwill gesture to the buyer, yeah, we're going to cover this. And They can afford it. eBay is like a multi-billion dollar company. They can do things like that. That's okay.
Yeah. And they can write that off too.
Exactly. Yeah.
When they do that. So
Right.
it's not like they're really taking a loss. They're getting that money back eventually.
Right. So let's backtrack to your career in the theater. What is your degree and what kind of work do you do there?
My degree is in musical theater performance. So I graduated to sing and dance.
That's wonderful.
And right now I do the 3-job thing where I resell. I work at a talent agency where I'm an assistant agent. And then I direct community theater shows for children's theater.
You're very busy.
Yeah, and it's been a very busy few weeks because we had a show last weekend, we have a show this weekend, and then we have a show next weekend. We have 2 shows next weekend.
So does any of that knowledge cross over into your reselling business?
Yeah, it does. Because I know about all the playbills and theater memorabilia, which I've found at garage sales, because some people go to a show once a year and then they pick up like a program or a t-shirt they didn't want or they don't want now.
Right.
And they put it up for sale for $2. I'm able to sell that. And I've also had to do research for roles that I've had or like scenes that I was performing. And so I found out like, oh, these are the types of items that they used back then.
Have you been in any shows that people would know?
I did Music Man.
Okay.
I was a Pick a Little Lady. I did I've done Bye Bye Birdie twice. I did Jesus Christ Superstar twice. And then there's a straight play that I think not everyone, but people know theater would know it's called Moon Over Buffalo. And that was one of my favorite roles.
Okay. Good for you. I love that. Now, I just have a personal question about the talent agency part. Are there a lot of tears in that office when people don't get the role?
Mostly from parents.
Oh, okay, right. Stage moms that get upset.
Yeah. We do have some adults that look like they or who act like that a little bit, or who are constantly asking us for feedback. And what our job is that some casting directors post like basically job listings describing the characters they're looking for. And we submit maybe like 10 actors of ours for each role, if they fit the description. And then the casting director gets back to us and they're like, oh, we want these people to audition. They may only pick one or sometimes they pick 5 or something. And then they submit their auditions. And then if they get it, we'll get notice that they're checking their availability for the shoot dates. And then usually that leads to a booking. But
that must be a difficult job. I watch a lot of true stories, like Lifetime movies based on a true story, or not all crime, but some crime shows. And it's like at the end, sometimes they'll show the real people and the actors. It's just amazing to me how much they look like the real people.
Yeah, we get submissions sometimes for like true crime or documentaries.
Right, documentaries.
Where they want to film reenactments. And they'll attach a photo of the person they want. And sometimes we have someone and sometimes we don't. It just depends on what they look like.
Right.
But they try, usually in those reenactments and stuff and documentaries and the true crime shows, which I'm a fan of as well.
Yes. I know people think you're sick and morbid, but I like how they figure out everything. And
Oh yeah,
the
me.
criminal, like the links they go to hide their crime and their life. And then, all the technology with the DNA and, just the detective work. That's what I like. It's like, how do they figure it out? So yeah,
Yeah,
very interesting.
it is. They're like, the actors are like kind of glammed up versions of the real people.
Of course, because you want to retain your audience, you want them to watch the show. So, the actors, they're more polished usually than the real people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have makeup and hair. So
Of course. Yes. All of that. So don't believe everything you see, right?
exactly.
Okay. Well, I've really gotten us off topic. Selling can go with anything though. It's something that's so versatile. It can be a side job for anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps because I'm only part-time at the talent agency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really part-time work at the theater too. And the reselling helps me be able to participate in the field I graduated in.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, when I started eBay, I was working at a grocery store, which I hated. Mm-hmm. So I was able to kind of find my way out of that with eBay.
Well, I think everybody starts off in a job that, you work your way up, and, you have to have those crap jobs so you know what a good job is.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about some of your sales, because you post pretty regularly on the Facebook group and you sell some cool stuff.
Yeah, I sell a variety of stuff. I basically sell almost anything that'll make me money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not specific. I know you've had people on who are very specific about what they sell, and that it doesn't work with my brain to be so focused on one topic.
And I think that comes with time, because after a while, you're just like, I'm sick of that. I don't want to do that anymore. Or you get a bunch of inventory and a certain type of item just doesn't sell for you. And I think a lot of it is the algorithm. What eBay sends to your listings is based on what you successfully sell. So I don't know what it is, like with shoes. I go back and forth. I'm not buying anymore right now because I've got 2 tubs of shoes that I've had for a while. And it's like, why does nobody buy my shoes? But
yeah, I have trouble with shoes too.
Then
so you're not alone.
The baby stuff, baby blankets and plush, and that works well for me. So I think it's what you're already succeeding with. eBay sends buyers to those listings because they already know, okay, this store sells a lot of this type of item. But that shouldn't deter you from trying new things, because it just takes a while for it to catch on. What you said about you'll sell anything, I think that's everybody to a point. But if you had a bad experience, like you've sold some electronics and over again, the buyer said they don't work or they get returned, and it's like you're going to develop an aversion to that item. It's like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. I've had too many bad experiences. So I like that you're open to selling anything.
Yeah. The only 2 categories that I kind of stay away from are large electronics, because I just don't want to deal with like the storage and shipping of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's used albums, because I don't have the knowledge that you need to be able to sell that. I sold one once and it ended up, I had to do a partial refund because I misdescribed it. And
what was the item? Do you remember?
It was a Saturday Night Fever vinyl album.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And albums are one of those categories like stamps and coins that I think they're graded, and it's a very specific, particular type of buyer that if you are not well versed in vinyl, you don't really know what to look for to explain. It's not like you did anything wrong. You did the best you could, but that's just one of those categories that the collectors are very specific about.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a collector's market. People who aren't collecting are really buying them.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about what you did succeed with.
Yes, exactly. That's much, much better.
That's what the listeners want to hear, is what worked. I mean, yeah, we can talk about what didn't work, and that can be taken into consideration, but this is a positive show. This is a happy show. So let's talk about your happy sales.
Yeah, most of my highest dollar sales are items I got for free.
I love that.
Yeah, because I live with my grandma, and I'm actually like semi a caretaker.
Okay.
And so she's starting to get to that stage of life where she's like, I don't want this stuff anymore. It's just going to be more for you to deal with when I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
So she was cleaning out her closet one day, and she pulled out a new with tags Gucci scarf in the box.
Are you kidding? Gucci.
Yes, Gucci.
Oh,
and
nice.
It was in mint condition because she never worn it. It still had the tags. It was in the box. Someone had gone on a trip to Italy and brought it back for her in like the 70s. So it was vintage too.
And it's just been sitting there in her stuff for what, 50 years?
Yeah, exactly.
That is a perfect example of, there's all these vintage items out there, and they've just been sitting in someone's closet for 50 years or whatever, and they're like preserved. They're like, a preserved dinosaur fossil.
Yeah, exactly.
They've just never been out of the box.
That's why I like estate sales a little more than the garage sales, because it's like they open up the whole house and they're just trying to get rid of everything.
Mm-hmm. So go back to the scarf. What happened with that?
I had it listed for about 200, and it was listed for I think 6 months, and it ended up selling for 180.
Very good.
For something that I didn't have to pay for. So 100% profit.
So you're like, Grandma, what, can I go look through your dresser drawers?
Yeah.
Are you doing that? Are you going through the stuff?
Yeah. That's how I found my recent biggest sale, which were Disney dollars.
Yes, I saw that. What were those?
That's how they used to do their like gift certificates for like the parks and the stores when they had the stores.
Mm-hmm.
They would give out what looks like dollar bills.
It was like Monopoly money that was Disney themed. It was just pieces of paper.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the size, it's a little bit bigger than an actual bill, but that's how they used to do gift certificates before like gift cards were invented. And you could buy them in like as low as $1, or $5 or 10 or 20 or 50, or I think they even had 100.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still use them in the parks, I think. But the one I sold had Simba on it, and it was baby Simba, and it was from the 25th anniversary, which tells you how old it is because they just had the 50th.
The 50th anniversary of Disney, not the Lion King.
Yeah, 50th anniversary.
Just to clarify that, I was like, wow, is the Lion King that old?
No. 50th anniversary of Disney World.
Okay.
But this was from the 25th, and it was apparently rare because it was only made for a limited time, and not a lot of people had them. Mm-hmm. And that sold for $120 in a day.
And so you're like, should I price it higher?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I did list it based on the comps. I probably could have gotten like 10 or 20 more dollars, but I'm pleased with $120 from nothing. It's been sitting in a jewelry box she's had for years.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I've seen them.
You're just pulling stuff out of the air, looking it up on eBay. Oh, we have a winner here. And I just love that.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
And
And
like you
sorry.
said, you're eventually going to have to deal with all her things at some point. That's going to fall on you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of did the same thing with my mom back when I started eBay. She was living with me, recovering from hip surgery, and we had all her stuff. And I learned to sell a lot of things by going through her items and learned to ship a lot of things and learn what was valuable. So it's a great free education to have all of that vintage stuff around you.
Yeah, exactly. And she's been on me for maybe about a year because she saw an article about selling Disney dollars.
Oh, really?
And she was like, you should sell them. You should sell. What about the Disney dollars? What about the Disney dollars? And I always kind of pushed it off because I'm like, well, they wrote an article about it. They're probably not worth as much as they're saying in the article. That's how people got in on the VHS thing, was they wrote tons of articles about them.
Yeah. And a lot of those, top items in your home that are worth money articles, they didn't do any research. That's just somebody writing an article, because they talk about stuff like those Reader's Digest condensed books, like they're not worth anything. And, some of the items, I read those articles and I'm like, oh, these people they don't know how to research. I feel like they're just putting together an article without any, who's going to call them out on it? Who's going to say that's incorrect? Nobody's going to do that. But every time I see those lists, it's like, no, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that,
Yeah, I think what they do is they base it on stuff that's listed, right, and not necessarily what's sold, because I don't think they know how to do that.
Right. It's just some writer at, a website that's just putting something together for their weekly quota of articles. And all of us that sell, we see those and we just roll our eyes and go, oh, this is fake news.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I usually comment on it, like, these are not sold listings, because I don't want, I feel bad for people if they like try to sell something for that much and it's not selling, and they'll get discouraged from doing this. And I want people to do this, because then it increases the amount of people going to eBay.
Right. Yes. And it increases the amount of people that are successful, that tell their friends, and then more and more people get into it. And it's good for everybody. The buyer, they're able to find what they want. It takes sellers and buyers. Yeah. The amount of misinformation about eBay is overwhelming, which is why I rebranded myself eBay the Right Way, because there's just, I get emails every week about, oh, I've got this thing and I see this worth this much. And I'm like, no, unfortunately, this person didn't do their research, or, teaching them how to use Terapeak to research and not just read whatever's on the internet, because, we all know everything on the internet is true, right?
Exactly.
But there's no fact checking. There's no governing authority that says, you have to have this fact checked before you put it out there. So there's all kinds of misinformation. The internet police can't police everything, but it does turn my stomach when there's bad information about eBay. And it's like, those of us who do it, we know better. We know that's not true. But if it's a new person that's got a house full of stuff and they've just retired and they want to start selling their things, they've got to be able to get the correct information so they can react accordingly, do the whole sell on eBay, donate, or trash, the sorting process. I'm glad that you're commenting and putting that out there, that their information is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like, because now all they want is people to click on their articles.
Exactly.
Because that's how,
clickbait. Yeah. Make $1 million on eBay in a year. I bought this Lamborghini with my eBay money. All that kind of stuff was rampant years ago, and people believed it.
yeah.
So I'm not saying
how many people were discouraged because
I'm not saying you can't make $1 million on eBay. I'm just saying the average person is doing it to supplement their income. I think there's more part-time sellers than full-time sellers. A lot of people don't want a warehouse full of items. They don't want 10,000 items in their store. It's that's not practical for the average person. So,
yeah, or to have to hire people to do a lot of the grunt work. And
I went through that, and I tell you what, I like being the lone wolf. I don't want to manage people, I don't want to have to do all the payroll stuff for employees. I did all that, and it's just like, I think I'll just see what I can do on my own.
Yeah. And it becomes like you're spending so much time teaching them how to do it when you're like, well, why am I just not doing it myself?
Or you get them trained, they do it for 2 weeks and they quit. They don't like it. They decide they want to do something else. And then,
or they want to do it on their own.
I didn't run into that because it's a lot of moving parts for the average person to figure out. But, I spent so much time managing people, teaching my employees, so-and-so can't show up today. I hadn't ended up doing the work myself, and it was just, I wasn't able to do the part I loved because I was so busy managing people.
Yeah. And that's why I always kind of cringe when I see people searching for like assistants and stuff, because they're going to spend so much time training someone, and they're going to lose some of their profits too.
It's time. I remember when I was hiring like a listing assistant, I put an ad on my like neighborhood community magazine thing, and, I'd meet them at Starbucks or something, and, meet them in person, talk to them about what the job is. That takes time. And then you train them, and then they just ghost you. I had several people just ghost me. And I was like, is this ever going to work out? And then somebody would work with you for a while, and then I'm going to have a baby. I can't do this anymore. Just, life logistically on paper, it looks great. Oh, I'll hire an assistant and then I can get 3 times as much work done. But then there's the reality of finding the right person, keeping them, trusting them. I had people steal inventory from me. It was just,
oh my gosh,
all kinds of stuff happened. And I don't mean to badmouth having employees. That was just my experience. And I think my direction was just, learn what can happen, learn how to do this. And then, it pushed me towards, I'm just going to do this on my own. And I can trust myself. I know my work ethic. And when you start hiring people, it can be unpleasant sometimes.
Yeah. The only time I've really seen that business model work are like very, very popular full-time resellers on YouTube who have a lot of viewers. So they have a lot of traffic in their stores.
Right.
And they've usually incorporated into an LLC.
Yes. I'm that. I did that a few years after I started, but sometimes you just have to try it and see if it works for you. And there are plenty of sellers that do have employees and assistants, and it works great for them. I just like to throw out both sides of it. every situation has pros and cons.
Yeah, I think you should be very careful if you're thinking of venturing into that,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's always a bad idea. It's just, I think a lot of people want to jump to the part where they don't have to work as much.
Well, and it's the same situation as retail. If you think about retail stores, there's a lot of turnover. It doesn't pay very much. There's employee theft. All those things can also happen to you in your home as a reseller. So anyway, enough of that topic.
Yeah.
I just like to warn the listeners because I've been through so many things where I'm just so trusting, and I always look for the good in people. And I think the shysters out there, they look for people like us. We're targets, like, oh, she's not going to think I'm stealing from her and all that stuff. So, that's just my experience. But what other kind of things have you sold?
I think my biggest sale was a Nintendo DS that my mom gave me to sell because she's cleaning out my childhood house right now of years of stuff that 4 girls collected. And she's giving me the stuff that my sisters don't want and I don't want to sell. And she lets me keep all the profits. So I'm not mad about it, but that sold for like $220.
Very good. So do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have 3 younger sisters.
And do they sell on eBay?
No, they do not. I'm the only one. So that's why I get
that's good.
I get all the good stuff because we had a lot of video games growing up. We had a lot of toys and Barbies and a lot of stuff that is worth money now, especially the video game stuff. And there's some stuff in that house that I can't wait to like get my hands on when my mom gets to it, because I'll see it there and I don't want to be like asking yet, because she has to go through 3 other kids.
Well, and I was just going to say 4 girls.
Yes. 4.
I bet there was a lot of estrogen in that house.
Yeah. It was my dad was alone, and even the pets we got were almost always female. Yeah.
All
the
dogs. What's the age
we had
difference in you and your sisters?
I'm about 2 years older than my closest sister. And then I'm 5 years older than the next one and 6 years older than the youngest.
That's a lot of girls in just a few years.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, so I get all of that stuff, and I've sold some good stuff from my mom, and she ends up going to a lot of events where she'll get stuff, and she works for Best Buy. So she'll want me to sell her old technology when she updates.
Right.
So I do that for her. I think the first big sale that I had that was like not just someone giving me stuff that I found on my own, that I was like really proud of, and it kind of tipped me over the edge of like, oh, I can make good money doing this, was I went to like a local thrift store where t-shirts were 25 cents. It's a very small thrift store, and it provides money they use the money they make to help like people in the community and stuff. So I like going there. And I was just like looking through the t-shirts. I hadn't really found anything. And I was looking through the men's t-shirts, and it was like the last thing I was looking for, and I was tired. And then I found this t-shirt from the NBA finals. I forget what year it was, but it had Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan on it. And it had all the team roster names on the back, and it was and I could tell it was obviously vintage. And it was for the playoffs, whatever year it was that they played
Mhm.
each other. And it was an XL too, which, with clothing, it makes it better with the larger sizes usually.
Right.
So I paid, I think I paid, I paid 25 cents for it. And it sold for $79.
Wow. For a 25-cent t-shirt.
Yeah.
Did you do a fixed price or an auction on that?
I did a fixed price because I don't like to mess with auctions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because when I started, you had to do auctions. I think it was before they allowed buy it now. And I
Right.
never sold anything on auction. And then they introduced a buy it now. And I was like, oh, that's much better.
Yeah, I think sellers are really divided on that. Some just do auctions all the time. Like, who is it? I think Zach McDore, the garbage man philosopher. He just does mostly auctions and he does very well. But he's finding like all these oddities in the trash. So that's just his business model. And then, I'm on the fixed price side where I just like to have everything for sale all the time and don't worry about, when is this ending? And I have played with auctions and I don't like the aspect of they don't have to pay right away. And then you got to do it all
Yeah.
over again. Like if the second place person doesn't want it and you got to start over. And, that was one of those experience is your best teacher. Is like, you got to figure out what you want to do and what you like doing. So,
Yes, exactly. And the auction thing, it's never worked for me. And I've never had an item where I was like, I'm not quite sure. There aren't comps. And I think that's when the auction is helpful, is when you're not quite sure and there aren't.
right. Exactly.
And I understand how that business model works for some people, because there is a YouTuber who she starts all of her items at $6
Mm-hmm.
and everything's an auction, but she
Okay.
does very high volume.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if she sells it for 6 or 106.
And who is this
Uh,
YouTuber?
her name is Crazy Lamp Lady. That's
Oh
her
yeah, of
YouTube
course.
handle.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And she is definitely a full-time seller and she has a family history in antiques, I think, or something. So,
Yeah, she has some expertise, especially
right.
in lamps.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, I just, you got to figure out what works for you. And so, if auctions are your thing, go for it. And how many items do you have in your store?
I think right now I have about 350, because I
Okay.
did I used to have just under 500, but then I did like a cull of items that I've had for a long time that weren't selling, and
Mhm.
that were kind of lower dollar items that, like, even if this sells, I'm not making that much on it.
Right.
And I think I did that actually about a year ago. And my grandma was really happy about it because she gets a little frustrated with all the stuff in the basement.
Right.
Um, so she was like, "Oh, you've got so many bags that are going out. I'm so happy." And so I did that. But it's always been a little bit of a struggle with her with the eBay thing, because she likes that I make the money, but she just wish it didn't take up so much real estate in her basement.
I think that's everybody. It's like, but I have to have inventory. I had a situation where a family member came over and, I was showing them, like, none of my family gets this. I have 2 sisters and a brother and my parents, and none of them understand this. It's fine. I was always the black sheep. I think I think
Same.
they found me on the side of the road. I don't think I came from these people. So anyway, they just don't get it. And so they're like, well, what do you mean you're going to Goodwill tomorrow? You have all this that you haven't sold yet.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like,
And you
but
gotta keep
does
refreshing.
Walmart say that? No. Does Target say, well, we can't bring any more inventory till we sell everything we have? No, you always have to keep bringing in more and finding more stuff. And it's just managing it and making those decisions when you buy. Do you really want to bring this home knowing it could be there for a while? And it's just balance and storage, and how you store it is very important, because you don't want your house to feel like a thrift store. You want to be able to shut the door and not think about your reselling for a few hours a day and like be a normal person. So, but I just thought that was so funny. And like, why are you buying more when you already have all this? And I'm just thinking, some people are like that with groceries. It's like, why are you buying more? You have all this food. Well, you just always are replenishing things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And about like 2 weeks ago, my grandma, I sold a vintage Powerpuff Girl backpack. Yeah, the vintage Powerpuff Girl stuff does pretty well. And I got that for $2. But I brought it up to package it and get it ready to sell. She's like, how much did you sell that for? I was like, $45. And she was like, oh, how much did you pay for it though? I'm like, $2. And she was like, oh, okay. She's like, maybe I should go to these garage sales sometime.
And who is this that said that?
My grandma.
Oh, your grandma. So is she the only one in your family who's like on board with what you're doing?
Well, the rest of my family gives me stuff to sell. And
Okay.
like I said, my grandma's like 50-50 with it. But recently she's been coming around more because I've been making more higher dollar sales.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, I'll go to you with to these garage sales.
That's actually very helpful, because if you have multi-generations in your sourcing group, everybody knows different things.
Yeah, exactly.
She's going to know stuff that you're clueless about, because hello, she's 2 generations ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly. And she'll recognize logos that I may not recognize and stuff. And she couldn't really, right now, she can't really like walk a garage sale, but she's like, oh, you can just show me, you can hold up stuff for me to see, or show it to me in the car before you buy it. I was like, okay. We haven't done it yet. She's like, when the weather gets nicer.
Well, and I see people in Goodwill and other thrift stores, they're FaceTiming somebody, and they're just filming the entire aisle of stuff. And they're like, do you see anything? Like they're getting somebody else's input while they're out thrifting. It may just be, for personal items, or one time I saw this lady doing that with the dishes and the mugs and that breakable aisle, and they were trying to match something for her personal collection. But you could definitely do that for eBay too, if you have somebody who is homebound or just, not available to go with you. You can definitely get them on. If it works in the store, that's always the question, is how is the internet in the store? But
yeah,
that's something, if she has a smartphone, maybe that's something you could graduate to. So
yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Goodwills by me, they almost all have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Free Wi-Fi, which is helpful, because usually towards the back of the store, you lose your data.
Exactly. I was just going to say that there's certain spots in the store that work better than others. And you learn that. So like you put things in your cart and you go over to that spot by the window, and then that's where you look them up, because the Wi-Fi doesn't work very well in the back, or it takes, 5 minutes to load what you're looking for. So it's just experience.
Yeah, exactly. But she's she just likes that I'm doing something that I like. It's the space thing for her. It's not
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she hates it.
And it's probably like the grandmotherly love of like, she doesn't want you to be overwhelmed with too much, like,
Yes.
if she isn't there one day and then you've got, this basement just crammed full of stuff, that might be a burden for you. So I feel like when people make those kind of comments, it's from the goodness of their heart. They're like, they don't want you to get overwhelmed or not be able to handle it or something like that.
Yeah. And I've offered to, like, if she doesn't want it down there, I've offered there's a storage unit like down the street from my house. Like I could go get a storage unit and put the stuff in there. It's like, no, I don't want you paying for a storage unit. Like, well, what is it?
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Storage units are not hard to come by. Every time I see new construction, I'm like, oh, that's either going to be a storage unit or urgent care or, something else that there's so many of them, but it's urgent care and storage units are taking over every corner of pretty much every city.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen more built up recently too. So,
well, and I think it's that whole thing of accumulation. People don't get rid of their stuff. They don't say the buck stops here. I'm going to go through all this. They just put it in a storage unit and then that person dies and then it goes to somebody else. I know this woman who, she contacted me a few years ago, but she says, I've had this storage unit full of my parents' stuff for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so she's paying at least $100 a month. That's like $12,000 she has spent just to have this stuff somewhere
that no one is using and
that no one has even opened these boxes in years. And it's just, ooh, I just start rubbing my hands. Ooh,
and it's not like it's, I know it's not like it's like on eBay. So it has like the chance to sell.
Right.
It's just sitting there.
And I think it's just overwhelming for people to clean those out or, that's their family history. They don't want to get rid of it. I don't know if they go visit it from time to time, but a lot of it is they just don't know what to do with it. They've got all these things, letters and documents and kitchen stuff, and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes it's an emotional connection. They feel like their parent or grandparent or relative is, if they don't have all of their stuff, it's like no longer with them or they're throwing away their life or
they feel like they're not honoring that person who's passed because if they dispose of or sell their items, they feel like that's just somehow dishonoring them. And I look at it the other way. I'm like, oh, somebody would love these tablecloths. I don't want them sitting in a box until I die. That's why we went through my mom's stuff. It's like, let's get this stuff to people who are going to use it.
Yeah. Or need it or whatever.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Just appreciate it. So anyway, well, this has been very informative and we've gotten to the end. So I'm going to ask you that last question of what kind of advice would you give to people just getting into this or that have a house full of stuff and don't know where to start?
I honestly think that people who don't know much about eBay and maybe listening to this podcast to learn more about eBay, I think that's the best tool is to keep your mind open and keep learning and use YouTube and podcasts and all of that stuff to help you learn. Because that's how I learned, was watching a bunch of YouTube videos and seeing what they picked up. And that's how I got excited about it. I'm like, I can do that. I can make money doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just need to make sure your mind is open and don't be stubborn about not wanting to learn new things. I know it can be hard sometimes, but yeah, you just got to open your mind.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because the opportunities to make money are endless with eBay.
Yeah.
And you can create a business that you love, and it can be whatever you want. It's not like, when you get into these home party things and, or like a regular job where there's going to be things you don't like about your regular job. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with eBay, if there's anything you don't like, you can change it. You can make it
Exactly.
so you love it. And that's the whole point, because if you don't love it, you're not going to want to do it.
Yes, that's exactly right. You need to just make sure you're always wanting to learn and make your business perfect for the way that you that works for your lifestyle, that works for the way your brain works.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you again for agreeing to come on and sharing so much information. And we will look for your sales on the Facebook group.
Okay. It was nice being here. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure. My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again, Cassie, for making the time to come on the podcast. You have a very busy life. Okay, on to today's trivia question. Since Cassie has a career working in theater, this trivia question is about the word limelight, which is associated with theater. Where did that word come from? Here is a musical interlude so you can think it over. Okay, in the early 1800s, theater stages were lit by heating a cylinder of the mineral called lime. The result was an intensely bright white light. The word limelight came to have its figurative meaning of at the center of attention in 1877. So the term limelight has nothing to do with the green fruit, the lime, but rather with a chemical compound, calcium oxide, known as quicklime. So now you know that. Next week, my guest is Dawn, who is kind of new on the eBay scene, but he is making a strong comeback after dabbling in eBay back in 2008. Things are very different now in 2023, and Dawn has it all figured out. So you don't want to miss that episode. Okay, that wraps up episode number 114. I want to thank all of you for tuning in every week and telling your friends about this reselling podcast. Keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other. All the little things add up over time. Talk to you next week. Bye for now.